Welcome everybody. This is Rev Games. We are going to be doing a deck profile and gameplay of the GOAT, or maybe the GOAT and GOAT. That's what it is. Because this is GOAT in GOAT format. Oh shit, no, I fucked it up. It's the GOAT in GOAT. It's the greatest of all time GOAT deck in GOAT. Got them triple GOATs. Call that the GOAT cubed. Um, yeah, but this is the deck. I've actually been playing for the last few days a pretty decent amount of goat control. I've been trying to rejigger the build because if you've listened to some of my other videos, I've been pretty critical of the way people are building the deck. They seem to have like a few pet favorite cards, which I just don't know if they belong in the deck or not. So I'm trying a few different things. So I tried something that was very specifically teched for turbo. I tried a discard engine, which made it very close to just a regular chaos control build, and I've been having some pretty decent success. I mean, I haven't been blown away, but the deck definitely can hold its own, and I think deserves a lot more respect than it gets. With this deck specifically, I have not played it, I just put this together. It's pretty similar to some of the other decks I'm playing, and this is really an inspiration from Splevin. I was looking through a bunch of Chaos um, or not chaos, what the hell am I talking about? Goat control lists, and a lot of them I really didn't like, so I kind of came up with my own build and then looked at Splevin's build, and they were very similar in a lot of ways, but he made a few really good deck building choices. This is his list, by the way, that I think really just indicate that he's a good deck builder. So this was Splevin's first place in Academy League Obelisk 27. I kind of took everything from scratch in the side deck, at least. I like some of the stuff here, but mainly what I wanted to focus on was what I think he did really, really well on in the main deck. So, this is his deck. I'm going to explain my own deck and what a few of the different changes were. But like, if you have played enough, you can kind of tell who's a really good deck builder, and they kind of like know how things interact and how hands work and what the weak points are of certain decks. And I just feel like this is just very well put together. So there are a few things I did change. But that's more of a function of me just testing. I'm not very, super experienced with the deck, but really the monster lineup is very similar. We are having to follow the herd of going Spy, Magician of Faith, just because if they get knocked, it's a lot better for those to be removed from the deck for you than it is for your turbo opponent. Plus, they're just independently strong cards, so it's kind of like a heads I win, tails I lose less type deal. So it just seems like every deck is being pushed to have to play some sort of flip package just based on the way Nobleman of Crossout works, which I don't think there's anything wrong with, but I think Warrior implementing that is very smart, and I think a lot of decks are going to have to do that. And it slows things down, gets you free pluses. It's just so good. Next is two Zaborgs. I think one Zaborg is almost at this point mandatory after playing this deck for a while. I haven't tested two Zaborgs, but the way I see it is, of course, you play BLS, which is your boss monster. It's every good deck's boss monster for the most part, other than, maybe Burn, which is, Jars, although that's not really a boss monster. And like Cat has like Cat, but I don't think that's more of a boss monster. That's more of a win condition. And Reasoning Gate has this and Dark Magician of Chaos. But what I think the more apt comparison is Chaos Turbo, where they kind of have like three boss-ish monsters, which this being the big cheese, and then two Chaos Sorcerers. The two Zaborgs, I think, serve the same function as Chaos Sorcerer, which is really good. It, of course, doesn't have the recurring nature of it. It's not as good versus Serpent and Sangan, but it's a whole lot better versus face down stuff. So, and it's 24, so it can even get over to Chaos Sorcerers. So it's just a good card, and I think it fits in this deck rather than having to redo your entire monster lineup and try to fit in Chaos Sorcerers. I just think this fits very well and serves a similar purpose. The other thing is it does give you access to the 5 package, which, you can use this for card advantage. I mean, I guess you could use it to stall in like a huge pinch, but it's usually just for card advantage. The next thing is Dark Balter the Terrible, and this card is terrifying. This is just such a good card. You can negate normal spells. That is that's nuts. And you can also negate uh, like flip effect monsters or whatever it might be. The other thing is if you like attack Sangans or floaters, whatever it is, but if you attack a Sangan with Dark Balter the Terrible, that thing's not coming back. Um, if you didn't know that. So like having 5 access in the extra deck is really, really strong. And I like having access to that. It's kind of funny. Last night, I don't know if it was the last or the second to last game, but I brought out this, which was I knew he had Mirror Force set. I'm trying to think. I think he actually wait. What was it? No, it wasn't Mirror Force because it wasn't this. What was it? I think it was Sakuretsu because I cleared his Mirror Force. Yeah, here's what happened. So I think he misclicked and showed me that he had Sakuretsu or something, and that is a little cheesy. Or maybe it was that I dust shooted him and I knew what his traps were. But really, the moral of the story is it can be correct to go into this card so that trap effects don't target it. It does negate flips, and this did win me a game. So it's really cool to have access to this. The other stuff that's really important is Ryu Senshi. You don't really have too much 6 access other than maybe Mobius in games 2 or Brain Control, a Sork or something like that, which will happen. So I think, and this is what I would consider the core 15 extra deck monster cards. I kind of like having them lined up like this just so I can see. It's more frequent than you'd think where you snatch a Cyberstein and you have to figure out what's going to win you the game, and it's very frequently not the same exact card every time. So yeah, extra deck access and learning what each individual card does is very important. I sometimes forget. I'm like, wait, what does this negate again? Oh, normal trap cards, and it can't be targeted by spells. It's like, yeah. Well, actually, it's even better, which is negate, because your opponent can try to target it, and it just negates it, and they can't take that back. So, uh, enough about that. This is the second boss monster, or boss monster junior, maybe is the better way to put it. The Two Tomatoes, I really like this card. It does have synergy with creature swap. It allows you to stall. It allows you to bring out Reapers and Sangans. I guess it could bring out Spy in a pinch. Maybe if one of your other spies, is off or got discarded or something like that. And then you can switch it to defense and wall with it. This just seems like a really good card. Floaters are underrated, plus it gives you the ability to be aggressive and attack with it at 14, and it kind of demands spell and trap-based removal like a Sakuretsu or a Raigeki Break, and you can bluff with it, which is even more important. You can just set this or a Reaper or whatever it might be and bait out Nox to then go for a Magician of Faith play. So I really like this card. It just gives you a lot of staying power. And the meta is pretty aggressive. I mean, this deck, because a lot of your cards require other cards to be good, can brick. And it can also get run over pretty quickly despite you running 3 Scapegoat. Believe it or not, you can get aggroed down a lot faster than you may think, because a lot of your cards, as I had mentioned, require other cards to be even remotely usable. Like Zaborg requires a tribute. You've got this that requires like this, pretty much, or this. You have this which requires this. You have meta which requires this, or a level 1. This can brick, so cards that are independently good without having to interact with other cards uh, are not really what this deck aims to do. Reaper, I think, is also really good. I think people forget how good just stalling out games is. You aren't going to draw perfectly every game. And yeah, people say this card isn't, great versus Turbo, but I mean, even picking off something like a Thunder Dragon really is not the end of the world. So having this availability is just, I think it's just a very, very good card, plus the natural synergies with stuff like Zaborg. I guess that also goes for Tomato, like just floating into something and then just tributing like a Sangan for a Zaborg. It's really, really, really good. Um, Tsukiyomi I don't think deserves any explanation. You're basically, and here I go explaining it, but you're basically just going to use it with Thousand Eyes Restrict and try to reset or any of your flips. It's really good versus Warrior. This is just a very versatile card. I toyed with the idea of putting another in the side. I just think that's too much, especially because we're on one creature swap. But this is where I think the deck, for the most part, gets a little bit different than Splevin's build, which is I'm very skeptical of Abyss Soldier. The vast majority of the lists that I have seen in Goat Control do play Abyss Soldier, and really the only thing you can discard is your Tribe Infecting Virus or a Serpent. And yeah, while it does feel good to just kind of loop them when they're trying to set something and then just keep attacking and winning the game that way, I just don't think that's really the really common enough for that card to be played. The other thing that's good about that card is it is Suki proof. You won't get Suki, Fuki, Fuki'd. And that's really about it. I mean, you can just beat with it, and you can bounce premature burials. That's something we cut as well, which we'll discuss. But I just feel overall, this card is a lot better. It's a lot better versus the most common deck, which is Chaos Turbo. It, um, stalls. You can sit on it. You don't need to attack with it. It's not really that great versus Warrior, but you can, banish stuff versus Chaos Turbo like Serpents, and it's just a good overall kind of stunish card. So maybe I'll change my mind on that and put the prematures back in. But next is spells. We got the Trinity, Nobleman. In terms of ratios, um, I am going with triple Scapegoat, 2 meta, and creature swap. The uh, the idea behind that is, Metamorphosis very well may be one of the best cards in your deck, but it does require other cards to be good, so sitting on a Metamorphosis in hand with nothing to follow up with is very difficult. Same with Creature Swap. We're not on things like a Sura Priest or a second Tsukiyomi. I mean, yeah, we do have the Mystic Tomatoes in here, and a Sangan, and a Serpent, but I just feel like, and the Goats, of course, but I don't know, I just feel like these kind of one-off, pardon me, super high power cards can brick you quite hard. So, maybe I'll switch it up and go, 3 goats, 2 swap, 2 meta. But I've seen like Splevin's build was on this ratio, which was 2 swap, 2 meta, 2 goats. That um, that's the only thing that like really stood out to me as very strange with this build. I'm not sure you can support these 4 cards with just 2 goats. So we'll see. I just think Scapegoat is, even when it's bad, I still feel like it's allowing me to get back in the game. Because you're going to draw those hands where you just have a total brick and you have a Scapegoat, and then you're just forced to Scapegoat and eat 4 attacks, and you're like, wow, I just -1, they just killed all of my goats. But I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Swords of Revealing Light, which is that, yeah, it's a -1, but it does buy you time, and it can allow you to get back in the game, in its worst case scenario, and this will eat 4 attacks. So I just feel like 3 so far for me has been the right number. I tried 2 and 2 and 1, but I don't know. I just feel like you need Scapegoat. So next is Trap Trinity. This is a control deck, so I think 2 Solemns are necessary. And then one other change is, well, I guess, talking about removing Premature Burial, that's mostly just due to removing Abyss Soldier. Premature definitely has some synergy because you can Premature and, maybe tribute out as a Borg or something like that, but there's just not really enough in this monster lineup that I want to be Premature Burialing. This is just a beater with Premature. This is bad with Premature. This is probably going to be banished anyway. This isn't good with Premature. This is good with Premature in the right situation. Shit, could be decent, could be decent. could be decent, but like I don't know. Doesn't work. Of course not. Can't. And probably not either. So I just don't feel like there's enough. Like I feel like you'd have to have like a little bit more beater centric of a build. Because the reason premature is so good is it allows you to extend in stuff like warrior, or if you're on stuff like DMOC, whatever, just get those extra pluses. But just don't really feel like there's anything that's worth bringing out. We'll see if that changes. We'll run a few games here, but the 3 dust shoot, um, there's just so much chaos turbo on ladder, and even with going up against warrior, if you go first instead of dust shoot, that's still actually pretty damn good. I mean, I'm not going to keep him in games 2 and 3, but this card is just very, very powerful. And the other thing is, the better you get at the game, the better dust shoot is. And I'm still, of course, trying to get better at the game, but it's one of those cards where you just need to get reps in. It's like, okay, now I know what their hand is, and I have to very intentionally track that and understand what my gameplay and game plan is going to look like with that in mind, assuming that they don't know what you're on or what's in your hand too. So next is the side deck. I'm experimenting with Morphing Jar. I don't think this belongs in the main just because it is bad versus a lot of decks, and I don't know if this is the right way to think about it, but I was thinking about like which cards, if you were Chaos Turbo, would be the worst to play, and this was like pretty much at the top of the list. Like Chaos Turbo would never play this because Chaos Turbo, the whole idea is to be up on cards basically at all times. So I was like, well, if that's the case, having it in my deck should mean that it's very helpful against Chaos Turbo, and it has been so far. So I don't think it deserves a spot in the main just because it's so bad versus most other decks, like Warrior specifically, or something that's going to be setting like their whole hand and trying to jar you, um, like Burn. This card's not even good versus like Reasoning Gate Turbo just because they want a lot of their stuff in the graveyard, spells and monsters included, and they'd gladly take a new 5. So there's really just not a lot. Like even Rescue Cat, like if you're just giving them like a full new hand, although maybe they are setting up their hand, so it might be decent versus Rescue Cat, but you're probably going to be up on cards versus most of those decks. So comes in for Turbo, and that's about it. This comes in for Turbo. This is just an additional Warrior tech. Warrior, um, Warrior, or like Earth Aggro or something. These I'm experimenting with in place of Lock. I still think this card's really good just because you do run goats, so it can be used um, in time situations. It can be used when your opponent is summoning Ojama tokens on you. It can be used in the mirror. It can be used versus Reasoning Gate Turbo. So I like this so far. This is for Turbo, of course. We're experimenting with one ruler for things like Cat, OTK, and Turbo, as opposed to the Karibo, just because I know we have metas in the deck, so Karibo's good since it's a level 1 and a dark, but I don't know. This just seems. I know they're going to Trunade you, but even just buying that one turn is fine. And this deck has 3 scapegoats, so really the most of the stuff we're not that afraid of with Reasoning Gate Turbo, at least. Something that pierces like Panda definitely is scary, so it's what it is. We'll see how it goes. 2 Dust Tornadoes for stuff like Warriors, or something that's going to Floodgate you, like Burn, and this for Warriors as well. But I'm going to clip this and we're going to jump into some games and see how it goes. Alright, so we're going to jump into ladder. I actually did play a game and had every intention of using that as the gameplay, but we just got totally blown out. We played against Chaos Turbo, and they basically had game 1, uh, turn 1, Thunder Dragon, Graceful Charity Pot, and they resolved the Night Assailant to get back Magician of Faith, and we had no way to clear the Faith, so they recycled, and I think like by turn 2 they were up like 4 or 5 cards on us or something. It was a total blowout. And then Basically, something very similar happened in game two. So it was, I mean, it happens in GOAT where it's just like, okay, like you Trinitied and we're never going to come back from that. And I mean, even if we were playing Chaos Turbo, like we would have never won that game. It was just a total blowout. So I don't want that to be the gameplay. There was like the games literally lasted like less than 4 turns. So I am going to try to get another game and see what happens. The one thing I will say about the other game is by the end of turn one, I basically knew we were going to lose just based on what our hand was and what theirs was. And they hadn't seen that we were on goat control yet. So what I actually did was before they won anyway, they actually on I think turn three had Chaos Sorcerer and BLS live, so they just totally blew us out. But what I was saying in the commentary was we don't want to show that we're on goat control since we're going to lose the game anyway. Like if we hit something with goat control, then or like they hit something with like delinquent duo, or we have to play something that indicates we're on goat control, we're just gonna go to game two because I want them to miss side for that. So just one of the small lessons there. I just figured I'd bring it up because that was the only like learning type experience you could ever impart from something like that, which is that sometimes it is right to just intentionally quit early on a game so that your opponent has less information. Okay, that. So probably reasoning gate turbo, which makes me want to set this and set a mirror force despite it probably not doing anything. Unfortunately, we did hit Call of the Haunted, which is probably one of the worst cards to hit at this point in the game, just because there's nothing in the grave. Yeah. Do we mirror force that? I think we do, because we wanna pick his hand. Like this is probably goat, but we can force out that. Like this is the most use that the heavy storm's ever gonna get. So let's just see. I mean, if he goats us, that's fine. Oh wow, that is crazy. All right, um, Suki can deal with like a pesky Jinzo or something. So yeah, like this is pretty obvious, I think. He might just... This guy wants to go fast. Wow. Jinzo. That's also not good to hit at all, because he can chaos us now, dude. That's really unfortunate. I mean, any game where you... Yeah. Any game where you immediately pick 3 cards, you almost always are going to win versus Reasoning Gate Turbo, but in this case, wow. I mean, holy shit. That was bad. So the obvious play here is Suki set this, and so we can't banish it, but we hit every bad card. Okay. We literally set him up, like, we set him up really well. If he wins this, this is like a 1 in a million win from him here. What we are going to do is, we don't have an out for that, so I'm going to wait. I don't think there's any real reason to do anything just yet. I'm going to wait one more turn, and then what we're probably going to do is end phase goats meta that. We probably should have done that already, to be honest. Because the more turns we give him to set up back row, or his hand, or whatever it might be, the better. Yeah, this is very unlucky. Oh my god, dude. I hate when your opponent takes an action and you try to like hit like any of these and then it just doesn't work. Jesus. Is this going to be another one of those games where we just get totally blown out? Flippy. He's going to banish that almost certainly. Not going to banish it. It gets banished. Wait, we can't actually activate this because we summoned, right? Yeah, I don't think we can. I'm gonna have to look that up because we technically did summon off Dimension Fusion. It's difficult. I think that's the way it works. Same with Spy, right? Hmm. I don't think there's any real reason to commit Tsukiyomi here. There's not. If he activates card destruction, we want this in hand. The bluff doesn't do anything. So we're gonna actually take 16, and then we're gonna block these two. So I just want to make sure that there's no way to clear all of the goats. Okay. I mean, unless he has book, I'm trying to think what they play. He plays book in the main, dude. Oh my god. What in the fuck are we playing against? I'm not book noblemening here. I am gonna Tsukiyomi and kill the crane. Maybe I should have been thinking about that before. Yeah, we can't stop that. Okay, so how are we winning this here? Tsukiyomi doesn't get over either of those. You kind of have to get this in the grave for Blackluster Soldier. We don't have any traps, but this I feel like presents a much bigger threat to us. So I'm trying to think what we remove here. I think it's I think it's actually Jinzo. Because we're probably going to have some, although none of our traps are going to do anything for the most part, but it's the way we win the game. Like a Mirror Force or a Torrential or something. Although Mirror Force is gone. I'll just fucking flip that back up. He's gonna hit a Demock, yep. Maybe he knows he could hit that. Bring back book? Hmm. Okay. Yeah, this isn't going well. Why can't I summon these? I just hit it like 4 fucking times. Is he gonna banish both? And then he has how much? Oh, that gets banished. Yeah, that's game. Forgot about that. So this comes in. These come in, I guess. And that comes in. That's basically it. Trying to think what's bad versus him. This is too slow. We're not going to be able to Zaborg. And by the time he has stuff on board anyway, we're dead. So that comes out. That comes out. I think that's it. All right, let's see if we can claw back this stuff. Try to also look up on scapegoats how that works. And we have no defensive back row. Ouch. So what we're going to do first is breaker, and this is so laggy, and just see what that is. It's probably a scapegoat. If it's scapegoat, we're pretty mad. I mean, I don't see why you'd said anything else other than that. The unfortunate part is he's still going to have enough fodder for, there it is, a monster gate. So, yeah. And I'm not committing any of this to board. I just don't see any real reason to do that. Maybe we can bait out like a giant Trunade or something. I don't see this being super useful. Jinzo doesn't really scare us that much. Demog does. Crane's a low payoff, so if he hits Crane, we're really not that upset about it. Okay. So I'm gonna bluff this and make him think that I'm wondering if he's Chaos Live, so maybe he thinks that's like a Saku or something. I don't think we're in a particularly bad spot here if we can get this Reaper through. Just gonna blind space. That's really, really good. What the hell? I can't select. That's his third scapegoat. Getting those out of the way is really good, to be honest. It's very good. Because that's his line of defense, and it helps his monster gate fodder. It does have the Primo, which is fine. It's not, that's scary, because he can now monster gate. Yeah. Jinzo. I'm not that afraid of Jinzo, honestly. Unless he can extend, which it does not look like he can. I think we should be able to win. Because we can snatch that, and then we can attack, and then we're going to meta. And Ryu Senshi is pretty good. It's not great, but I think we're getting in for enough damage that it's going to make his life very difficult. Plus, we're going to set up a Kaiku behind a Solemn. And then, is that everything? I hate when people do that. So that's 4,000. You just, yeah, I mean, just admit defeat. Okay. Just reassessing the side deck choices. Yeah, that's how we want to do it. Delinquent Duo is really, really good versus this deck. Scapegoat's really good. Tsukiyomi. So we have no traps, so Jinzo is not that high of a payoff, so we're not worried about that. Crane's the most likely, but it's just draw a card. DMOC is game winning, so we call DMOC. And again, like this is the most likely thing, but DMOC just loses us the game most of the time, so. He also milled it very quickly, which is good. It's really unfortunate when they mill like 10 spells and then do that, because they actually want more spells in the graveyard. That is their toolbox with DMOC, so so far so good that he milled something quickly, and he doesn't have a toolbox set up in his graveyard. We're going to jam Duo. I think. Let's see what we hit. I just want to make sure he doesn't want to chain jar or something. Okay, yeah, that was the right one. Torrential. So that's actually good to get out of the way. We didn't hit any combo pieces, which is a little unfortunate, but that's life. Well, I can't select anything, dude. What the fuck? Okay. That's also totally fine, I think. My biggest concern here is it's very, very much so Monster Gate. I really don't want to get gated. I highly doubt he's keeping in any spell and trap removal, but he's like, okay, that's fine. Not worried about that. He could get trapped here unless he has gate, which he does. God damn it. This dude's drawn really well. Like, having this many Monster Gate and Reasonings early on is quite rare. And he gets the Parshath. It's probably in his side. That sucks. We can snatch it, though. Yeah, might as well just take the 19 rather than letting him eat a goat. Oh my god. He's gonna hit a DMOC here. Like, he's gone through everything else, basically. So what's our game plan to win? which is decking him out, I guess. I think that's how we have to play, honestly. It's just crazy. What's he summoning? Heavy storm. That's unfortunate because we don't know what that back row is. Okay. So, we basically have to just stall 2 turns. I want to think what is left. So we see 2 cranes, so there's no crane left. He doesn't look like he's on Toon Cannon Soldier. This is going to be a long term, and he'll probably get pissed, but I have to do this. So Monster Gate, 1, 2. We have 3 goats gone. I only see 2 Monster Gates. There's 1 reasoning, 2 reasoning, 3 reasoning. So Monster Gate is one of them. He's only going to be on 2 Sork. He could have sided in a Mirror Force or a jar. There's probably not on another jar. We see 1 Trunade, 2 Trunade. So it's that's really unfortunate because it could be a Trunade. I got to think about this. Because we obviously want to keep these guys live, but if we snatch and it's Trunade, then that becomes a lot scarier for us. Whereas this turn we could essentially full clear with Tribe. We only saw 2 Monster Gates, right? No, that's 3 Monster Gates. We saw Pot of Greed. Now I'm forgetting which card's Dimension Fusion. Dimension Fusion's the other one. And did we see Monster Reincarnation? Dimension Fusion, Monster Reincarnation are some of the reads. Trunade could be a read. I think we kind of have to play around Trunade. I don't think he kills us next turn, and I think if we just kill the Demok, then that's really scary because he can Dimension Fusion it back and maybe Wombo combo us. So I think we're snatching and trying to kill Jinzo, and that's just how we're going to have to play it. See, the thing is, I don't just win. And if you think that, I mean, just quit. It's not a big deal. We are going to normal and blow up Jinzo. This turn, we are. Unless he sided out a Trunade, which I don't think is reasonable. So he's gonna probably hope that we misplay here and that we tribe this and then he can Dimension Fusion, which we are not going to do. I don't think his token matters. In fact, it probably is better that that takes up board space. He could have a Vortex, Lightning Vortex maybe, which is also very unfortunate. Ooh, did not see that. That's game. Well, he won it. Could I have played around that? Could I don't think I could have. Like, I don't think you can read brain control. I don't think that's the right play, is it? Oh, Vortex was in the grave. Oh, there were 3 Dimension Fusion in the grave. Shit. Uh, that probably was the right play, now that I think about it. I thought there was a Dimension Fusion left, so I didn't want to banish Demok. This guy was a dick, by the way. I mean, I misplayed, but there's no reason to call it out like that. Because I don't think we saw Brain. We had this call correct. He sided out a Trunade. The other thing we called was potentially Mirror Force, because he did seem to side in some defensive traps. Trying to think like under what scenarios. Really the big miss here was we only saw 2 Dimension Fusions when there were actually 3 in Grave. So that was a mistake. We should have definitely yeah. We should have attacked, pitched, and that would have been banished, and he would have had no way to get it back. Oof. This guy did get lucky though. Like I've played enough Reasoning Gate to know that this guy was pretty lucky here. But that's really all there is to it. If you're watching till the end of this video, don't be this guy. I mean, he did say GG's at the end, but there's no real reason to like rub salt in the wound like this. That's just kind of a dick move. Goat format is a small community, so there's really no need to drive people away and be a douche. I'm not one of those people that's going to judge like based on what deck you play. Like, yeah, it's totally fine you're running Reasoning Gate Turbo, but don't be a sore winner. Like that's really stupid. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.